I have a confession to make. I have been using Lightroom Classic now for about 15 years. And for my photography, I know as much as I need to know. I know how to use the sliders. I know all the shortcuts. It's all very convenient for me. So when I was approached a few weeks ago by DxO Labs to try out a new piece of software, Photolab 9, I have to say I was a little bit skeptical. I thought, what could be better than Lightroom Classic? Everybody uses Lightroom Classic. You see, in the back of my mind, did I really want to be learning a new interface, a new piece of software, how it worked? I didn't really think I could do that, but the thing that actually drove me towards giving it a try was, as you know, I shoot handheld in the landscape, at beaches. I don't use a tripod. But with Lightroom Classic, I was beginning to see a few minor shortcomings. Perhaps I was being picky, I don't know. But so because I realized that Lightroom Classic maybe wasn't doing the best job, I decided I would take a leap of faith and try out DxO Photolab 9. I found the results absolutely stunning. In fact, stick with me for the next few minutes because I'm going to show you why I was stunned. I've picked out 4 reasons which actually make this software essential for you to get amazing photographs.
As you know, I shoot handheld, and to get a shot with an acceptable exposure, the ISO setting is often quite higher than you might normally expect. And in this particular shot, ISO is set at 3200, 1/320th of a second, and f9. Now, if I were to use Lightroom denoise on this image, it would just become a muddy mess. What we can see on here is the unprocessed image coming into Photolab 9, and just look at the results. A really nice clean image. And if I were to zoom in, you can see that on the left hand side lots of noise and colour artifacts. On the right hand side it's absolutely clear, and watch as I sweep across. Now, in my experience, that result in Lightroom Classic is virtually impossible. Now, what I've done now is set up the Lightroom Classic denoised image on the left hand side of the screen and the Photolab 9 DeepPRIME processed image on the right hand side. And you can see the difference is quite extraordinary. As I sweep across, the Photolab images becomes exposed, and look at the detail that we've been able to recover with DeepPRIME within Photolab 9 Elite Edition. On the left hand side, this is Lightroom Classic using its own denoise feature, and on the right hand side, look at that, Photolab 9. It's absolutely extraordinary, isn't it? The difference is amazing. Yes, we've all heard about DeepPRIME and how fantastic it is, but the fact that it's now a part of Photolab 9 Elite Edition is really fantastic. It means you have a whole range of tools at your fingertips all in one place. Anyway, there's a second reason I think changing to Photolab 9 is really important, and that is to do with colour rendering, which is in fact to do with your camera sensor, which is likely to have some flaws in it. But anyway, let's just have a look at an image I shot at the beach a little while ago. Now Lightroom Classic does not seem to have any sort of corrections to the camera body sensor. It seems to rely entirely on camera profiles to provide a basis for your edit. But Photolab 9 operates quite differently, and you may see in this shot that on the right hand side I have selected the Sony Alpha 7R4 camera, and Photolab 9 has corrected the flaws that are inherent within that sensor. This is the image straight out of the camera, and this is the corrected image using the correct camera body. Can you see the differences in the color rendition? Look at the sand in particular. It's quite grey on the left and has more colour on the right. The colour's not overly overdone though. So many people might think this is a minor issue and that a camera sensor is a camera sensor. But DxO Photolab corrects image flaws specific to your particular camera sensor. Now, I'm one of those photographers that has always thought it is really important to get the best quality image you can out of your camera to form the basis of any editing or processing that you might want to do. So it's a little bit disappointing that Lightroom Classic doesn't appear to do this. But Photolab 9 does. And I think it provides a really good base for any edits that you want to do. So it might be important at this point just to take a moment to understand what DxO modules actually are and what they can do for your image to provide that sort of really good solid base from which further editing can be undertaken. Of course, the DxO website has a great deal more detail about how DxO modules come about, the science behind them, and if you're interested, I'll put a link in the description below so you can check out that detail. It's really quite interesting. Now let's deal with optical corrections, lens distortion and sharpness. In Lightroom Classic, as you probably know, there is a lens profile that you can choose for your particular lens that you're using, and it does a reasonable job. There are one or two little issues with it. For example, the distortion is not necessarily dealt with completely and often requires a manual adjustment. Also, when you sharpen an image in Lightroom Classic, it tends to sharpen the whole image, whether or not those sections in the image need it. With Photolab 9, it's a little bit different. Distortion is totally corrected, and sharpness is only applied where the image requires it. So, for example, if your image is a little bit soft around the edges or in the corners, but sharp in the center of the image, then Photolab 9 will only sharpen those softer areas, which means that the center of the image doesn't get over sharpened. Neat. So let's have a look at an example. I'm going back to my beach shot that we looked at earlier, and I'm just going to apply all the information from the DxO modules for my camera and lens. So first of all, let's deal with the color rendering. We then deal with distortion, and look at the difference this makes. Lens sharpness, very subtle all around the edges. It got a little bit sharpened because it's perfectly sharp in the center. And finally, dealing with vignetting. That's brightened up the edges no end and provided a really balanced image right across. Now I think that's an excellent result. Of course, with any editing software that we might use, there are always going to be drawbacks. But before I get on to those, let's have a look at the fourth reason why I suggest that Photolab 9 is far better than Lightroom Classic. And that reason is masking. When I use masking, AI masking in Lightroom Classic, it always tends to be a little bit sort of fuzzy around the edges, slightly inaccurate. The mask tends to, I don't know, identify more than it needs. But Photolab 9 seems to have more accurate masking. Let me just show you what I mean. Okay, with this image is straight out of camera, so I'm immediately going to apply my color rendering, distortion, lens sharpness and vignetting. It's a little bit dull, but that doesn't really matter for our purposes. I'm then going to go down to local adjustments and choose AI mask. And all I have to do with AI masking is literally just put the cursor where on the area I want to mask. It identifies it roughly for me. Click. Job done. Now this is pretty accurate. If I can show you how accurate it is just by reducing the exposure in the sky. And you can see that the mask has quite clearly picked out and gone around things like these trees. Let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see this a little bit better. So the mask has excluded these trees. It's tried to follow the edge even in the distance when the edge is not so distinct. Let me just brighten this up a bit for you so you can see. Now, to my mind, that's not a bad effort at all. It's even gone around these trees here, look, on the horizon. So I think that's very good. And when you add into this the control point technology which you can use, which can give you some really fine control over masking, again, it's just far superior. And now to the drawbacks. Of course, one or two of these may not be drawbacks for you, but I reckon the main drawback, certainly for me, was Lightroom Catalog. It's such a brilliant part of Lightroom Classic for organising photos. And at first, I didn't understand entirely how Photolab 9 could help me organise, but I did find a very easy way of organising my photographs, very similar to Lightroom Catalog, and I'm going to be doing a video about that in the course of the next few weeks, so keep an eye out for that one. The second drawback, of course, is the learning curve. I suppose in a way I'm quite used to learning new things. I think you have to be as a photographer, don't you? You tend to sort of learn all sorts of new techniques and understand a little bit more about how your camera works and so on. So learning is not too much of a problem. And I suppose I found it really easy to slip into using Photolab because a lot of the tools that Photolab has were obviously in Lightroom Classic as well. It's just perhaps they might have done them a little bit better. I don't know. That's up for you to decide. So learning curve was something I did think would take a little while, but I was surprised. I managed to find my way around Photolab 9 very quickly indeed. And of course the third drawback is cost. Now I've got a few notes here which I'll need to refer to because I'm never going to remember all the numbers. Anyway, with Adobe Lightroom you can currently subscribe to that as an annual subscription payable monthly, and that works out at around £11.99 a month. But you're committed for the whole year, of course. There are also other parts of the photography plan as well, some of which go up to nearly £20 a month, although you're committed to an annual subscription. Now with DxO's Photolab 9, you just pay once. You don't have to upgrade every time that there's a major upgrade. You can do, of course, if you choose to, but you don't have to. And currently you can get Photolab 9 for £219.99. And if you use my discount code, which I'm going to put in the description below, you'll get 15% off that. In addition, you can of course download a 30-day trial for free and try out all the features of Photolab 9 Elite just to see if it's right for you and your photography. Now, of course, I have to say I'm totally convinced. I didn't think I would be after nearly 15 years using Lightroom Classic. But very quickly I began to realize that the photographs that I thought I was never going to be able to use, I was able to reassess and use in Photolab 9. So I urge you, if nothing else, just give it a try. You've got a 30-day free trial, and if you decide to go ahead on it, use my discount code. I will of course earn a very small commission, which all goes to help me supporting this channel anyway. So I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into Photolab 9 and why you might change from Lightroom Classic. And if you have, don't forget to subscribe and like this video as well. And until next time, bye.